Hello, my name is David Malin, and I'm the instructor for Computer Science E1, Understanding Computers and the Internet at Harvard University's Extension School. You're watching one of our videos of the week. For more such videos or information about this course, visit us on the web at computerscience1.org. Enjoy the show.
Hello, my name is Eugenia Kim. I am a teaching fellow for Computer Science E1. This is a video of the week. In another video of the week, we briefly demonstrated how to edit a digital photograph using a program called Adobe Photoshop. For this video, we are going to explore some other popular features of Photoshop, primarily for painting and graphics purposes. If you do not already own Photoshop or do not wish to purchase it right now, you can go to www.adobe.com/downloads and get a 30-day trial version for free. It will require you to register with Adobe first, which means providing them with your name, email address, and a few other pieces of personal information. Once you get past this page, you can download and run the installer from your computer. Once you have Photoshop and have opened the program, you will want to go to File, New. It will ask you to determine the size and resolution of your image. I typically suggest working in a space bigger than the final image, since it is always easier to make something smaller rather than bigger. A good rule of thumb is that if you are going to print something, start with a minimum of 300 pixels per inch, or DPI, and about 8 by 10 inches big. Photoshop also has several other default or preset image settings, so you can always explore those. Now, depending on your settings, you will either get a blank background, portrayed by a gray and white checkerboard, or a solid color. Most people prefer white, just like a piece of paper. However, it is certainly up to you how you want to start. To zoom in and out, you can use the navigator. You can also maximize your image window so that it doesn't move around. Now, if you go to the side, you might see a little window that says Layers. You can think of layers as being different transparent pieces of paper which lie or stack on top of each other, and that you can put a separate element of your drawing or image, and you can affect that particular element without affecting the rest of your image. You will start with a layer called background, and it is typically locked. So, while you can choose to duplicate it, I typically just leave the background layer alone and make a new layer for each element that I'm going to use. You can either go up to the menu bar and hit Layer, and then go down to New and get Layer, and click OK once the window pops up. Or, if you go down to the very bottom of the Layers window, you'll see a little icon to the left of the trash can. If you hover over it, you will see Create a New Layer. Click on that, and you'll get a new layer. So once you have these layers, you can rename them. You can do things like change the way they appear, such as make it so that everything dissolves into the layer below, or have it so that the colors are inverted for your image. You can also change things like the opacity and also change certain properties within the layer. Let's start by drawing something. If you go over to your toolbox, which is the window with many, many icons, including what looks like a pen, a paint bucket, teardrop, etc., you can choose how to use a brush tool, you can choose to use a pen tool, and you can also have a path tool. I would personally suggest using the airbrush tool for painting or filling in certain small spaces or getting a certain texture or line. Using the pen tool or the path shape tool is great for getting clear, crisp lines because they use vectors. But in general, since Photoshop is a painting program, it is probably going to be easier to use the brush tool. And even there, you can have the choice, if you hold down on the brush tool icon, you can choose to change it to a pencil tool or a color replacement tool. The pencil tool tends to be kind of shaky and pixelated, so again, I would suggest using the brush tool to start off with. And I'm just going to draw a little smiley face. And before I do that, if you look at the top right underneath the menu bar, you can change the size of your brush, what mode or sort of effect it has, just like in layers. Its opacity and the flow, which means how smoothly or how slowly, quickly the quote-unquote ink comes out of your brush. So I'm going to choose a rather large brush size, and I'm going to pick 65. And here is my smiley face. Now, perhaps you don't want that color or the default color that Photoshop opened to. If you look to the side again, you will see a little box, and that should say Swatches. And there should be several other tabs, including Color and Styles. Swatches is usually the easiest place to start with for picking colors, since it offers a default set of colors to choose from. Typically these will all be nice and easy to use for any web graphics or anything else you might want to do. So we can pick, say, purple, and go over and paint some more on our image, and just go crazy. One other thing you might want to do is perhaps you want to create your own custom color. So you can go to the Color tab and move the little sliders around until you get just the right hue and saturation of a particular color that you want. Another thing you can do is double-click on a color swatch and rename it. Or if you go to the toolbox, you'll also notice that the color swatch that you were working on will show up. If you double-click on that, it will open up the color picker. And if you click on Color Libraries, it gives you an option of choosing from a whole set of color palettes. So as you can see, your color options are nearly limitless. Say you want to only color one part of your image a certain color. If you go to the toolbox, in the second row on the right side, you should see the Magic Wand tool. If you click on that, and then click on one of the items you have drawn, it should select and create a little dashed arrow boundary around that one object. From there, you can choose a different color, for example, and then you can do something like go to the Paint Bucket tool, which is also in your toolbox and looks literally like a paint bucket. Click on that. Click within the space that is surrounded by the little dashed lines, and it will change the color of that one object without changing any of the colors in the rest of your picture. Now you might ask, well, how do I get it to stop selecting that object? Shortcut in Windows is Control-D, or if you're on a Macintosh, open Apple D, and that unselects it. Another option is just to go up to the menu bar, Select, and you should see the option Deselect. Another way to create an element in only one part of your image is to use the Select tool. That is usually found on the top row on the left side. And you can have your choice of the rectangular Marquee tool, the oval-looking one, single row, single column. Why don't we just stick with the rectangular tool for now? I would suggest making a new layer, and then select any part of the image you want, where you might be all right with a big patch of color. Now, something fun you can do is if you click on the Paint Bucket tool and hold down, there should pop up something called the Gradient tool. Now, the gradient lets you create sort of a fade from a color. And if you go to the options right underneath the menu bar, it lets you work with several different kinds of gradients. I'm going to just pick one of these at random, and you click within that selected space and just drag down a little bit, and it should fill up that whole area. Again, you can fiddle around with it, change some settings, but basically the gradient tool can let you just fill up a large amount of space quite easily, quite quickly. So let's deselect that, and then go to that layer, and if we want to say have it be underneath our smiley face, we can just click on it, hold down, and drag so that it's below the layer with the smiley face, and then the smiley face pops up over it. So maybe you don't want all of your smiley face. Maybe you only want a certain quarter of it. Well, if you go to about the third row in the toolbox on the left side, you should see something called the crop tool. To use it, you just click anywhere on your image and pull out until you have about the right dimensions. And then when you're satisfied with the area that you have picked, you can press return, and it will resize your image to only that much space. It is not permanent. If you don't like what you did, you can always go up to Edit, Undo Crop. And the shortcut for that is Control-Z or Open Apple Z. To top off our smiley face, let's add some text. If you go down to the toolbox again, you should see a capital T. This is your horizontal type tool. You can also type vertically and a couple of other options, but let's just stick to the basics for now. Nice thing about the type tool is that as soon as you click on and designate an area in your image, it will generate a new layer for you so that you can easily just go right to work. Again, underneath the menu bar, it lets you choose your font family, whether it's regular or bold, how big your font is, and where it's aligned, etc., etc., etc. And I'm just going to type in smiley. And again, you can definitely change this as you please. And to move around any of your elements, you can just click on the arrow plus compass-y looking icon in the toolbox, which is the move tool. And it will move around any of the elements that are in that particular layer without affecting any of the elements in the other layers. So then you can move your text around, click on the gradient layer and move that around, and even click on your smiley face and move that around. Another popular thing to do is play with filters, and if you go up to Filter and click on it, it should bring out a menu of many, many options, ranging from making your image look like it was painted with oil paints to adding noise and pixelation. There are many options. Once you are done with creating your image, you'll obviously want to save it. So if you go to File, you can go to Save. The default is to save it as a PSD, but it does give you the option of where to save it and what format, popular choices being JPEG, and we often use PNG at E1. And then you just hit save, and there you go. You have your image on your computer. This has been a video of the week. Thank you for watching.